Hello and good day, pre-algebra. Happy Friday to you. Before we begin today, I just want to mention something about these Google quizzes. I'm sitting at home and I'm watching the scores live as they come in, and I have a general idea of how long my videos are. And so, like yesterday's video on the two-step equations was a little bit longer one. I think it was like 25, 28 minutes. But I'm seeing scores come in at like 9:12, 9:15. And I don't think it's a coincidence that some of these scores coming in early are the same ones that are retaking the quiz multiple times. So please don't start the quiz until the video finishes so that you have an idea of what's going on, you don't miss anything. Some of your questions that you're having on the quiz are probably answered in the video itself. So just hold off until the video is done, do your work on the page, and then go to the Google quiz. I think that'll be a better experience for all. So anyway, our final objective of the unit is not going to be on equations, but it's going to be on inequalities. And whereas an equation, compares two values that are the same, right? The equal sign means the same as, okay? And inequality gives us more of a range of solutions that we could have, or a range of numbers. Perhaps you recognize these symbols down in the table here. Maybe you even graphed inequalities before. Maybe this is like completely review for you. Maybe it's totally new. I'm not quite sure. But the goal today is just get an introduction to inequalities. And so an inequality is a mathematical statement describing a range of values. Okay, describing a range of values. And I'll show you what I mean here by filling in this chart with some words or phrases that mean each of these four symbols. I'll start with kind of the most common one, and that is less than. Okay, that is the less than symbol. So where this differs from an equation is if I were to say something like n equals 8, an equation, that's what n is. N is 8, nothing else. Okay, it's exactly 8. But with an inequality, if I said n is less than 8, which actually is what this first graph says down here, it means that n can be anything below 8. Not just one number, but any number that is below 8. It could be 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0, 0.5, anything negative, right? Anything less than 8 would be considered a solution to this inequality here. So rather than an equation giving us just one value, an exact value, an inequality gives us a range. Okay, this one is greater than. It can sometimes be kind of difficult to tell the difference between the two. What always worked for me growing up was the less than symbol. If you kind of look at it, it looks kind of like a squashed L, right? If I did that and then kind of swoosh that down, I might get that symbol there, okay? And that would always just remind me what the less than symbol is. Maybe you've heard about the alligator eating the larger number, or the symbol pointing to the smaller number, right? There's a lot of different tricks that works for me. You use whatever works for you. The next symbol is the less than or equal to. The less than or equal to symbol. So the difference between less than and less than or equal to is if I have the inequality n is less than 8, 8's not a solution to that, right? Because if I need a number less than 8, 8 is not less than 8. It's not less than itself. However, if I have a less than or equal to symbol, n is less than or equal to 8, well, now 8 can be a solution because 8 is less than or equal to 8. Okay, so the only difference between less than and less than or equal to is that your solution number your starting number there, it's included in less than or equal to. It's not included in just the less than symbol. And so here, this last one would be greater than or equal to. But there are lots of other phrases that we might use, that we use commonly, that would represent one of these symbols. Let's look at less than. You might say fewer than. Okay, or for greater than, more than. Have you ever used the phrase at least? You know, your parents want you to spend at least 45 minutes on homework each evening. That phrase at least, you know, if your parents say spend at least 45 minutes, that means 45 or more, right? They're saying at the bare minimum, spend 45 at least 45 or more. So it's kind of tricky because it's got that word least in it, but that phrase actually means greater than or equal to. Because if you spend at least 45 minutes doing homework, you're actually doing 45 minutes or more. Conversely, the phrase at most would represent less than or equal to. You can spend at most 30 minutes on the tablet, right? At most 30 minutes on the tablet. That means not more than 30, right? 30 is the most you can do, so it's 30 minutes or less that you could be on the tablet there. Other ones, maximum and minimum. Right. Again, you might think that minimum would be the less than or equal to, but if you need to be a minimum of 48 inches to go on the roller coaster, that means you need to be 48 inches or taller, right? 48 is the shortest you could be, the minimum height. That represents being 48 inches or taller. Then you got the word maximum. Certainly we've all been on an elevator that says maximum capacity 2,000 pounds, right? That means that 2,000 pounds is the absolute heaviest that you can all be on that elevator for safety. So you want to be 2,000 or less. Okay, so it can be kind of tricky with those phrases because your brain sees least and it thinks less than, but it's actually greater than or equal to. It sees most, it thinks greater than, but it's actually less than or equal to. But if you actually think about what it's saying, it makes sense. It makes sense. Another one, limit. A speed limit, right? If the speed limit is 70 miles per hour, that means you can go 70 miles per hour. That's the fastest, or below that. Okay, less than or equal to 70 miles per hour speed limit. Any more for less than or greater? I'm sure they're out there. I gave 4 spots for a reason, but maybe that was just for the less than or equal to or greater than or equal to. So we might come across some more phrases as we go through the page. We'll just add them in here, but these should get you started. Okay, and then I said that an inequality represents a range of solutions. We represent that with a graph. Okay, and what this is basically a number line showing the values that match our inequality statement. This one here says x is less than, it's a less than symbol, x is less than 8. So notice how I've got an open circle around 8. That tells me that 8's not included. That open circle tells me 8 is not included, but then everything to the left of that, everything less than that is kind of bolded, kind of shaded in here, okay? Anything that direction on the number line makes that inequality statement true. It's less than 8. This next one here would be x is less than or equal to 2. Oh, forgot my L there. There. Less than or equal to 2. So notice the difference here. In this case, we've got a closed circle at 2. That circle's been filled in. That represents that 2 is included. So if you have just the less than or greater than symbol, it's going to be an open circle because your solution number is not included. If you have that or equal to part, x is less than or equal to 2, and we see it again here in x is greater than or equal to 0, again, it has that closed circle there. So that or equal to part, we represent that with a closed circle saying that, yes, that number is included. And then in x is less than or equal to 2, notice how everything less than 2 is kind of shaded in here, okay? That closed circle at 2. For x is greater than or equal to 0, again, that closed circle showing 0 is included, and then everything to the right of 0, everything greater than 0 would be a solution to that. If x is greater than or equal to 0, x could be 0, or 7/8, or 1, or 112, right? Anything that's greater than 0. Okay? So what I want you to do in this first section here is I want you to write each inequality statement a second way. Actually, we are going to eliminate that first step because this is just an intro to it. So cross that part out. Instead, I want you to write it as a verbal phrase and then graph it on a number line. So we're going to practice going from the mathematical inequality statement to that verbal phrase. What does the symbol mean? Okay, and then graphing it on a number line. So this first one here, n, check our symbol. What does that mean? Oh, the greater than symbol. N is greater than 11. Okay, if you wanted to write it as n is more than 11, that would be fine also, right? Because the phrase more than means the same thing as greater than. You don't have to write them both. One is just fine. But then your graph, you're going to make a number line. You're going to identify 11. We can just put it in the middle, okay? And then being the greater than symbol, it's going to be an open circle because 11 is not included. And the values greater than 11 are to the right. Okay. If you want to make your graph kind of look more like the examples up above, that's totally fine. Again, identify 11, put an open circle around it, and then it's kind of shade, that direction. That works too. Just so that whoever's looking at your inequality graph can tell, is 11 included? And then which side of 11 are the values we want? Okay. Let's do the next one. N is, what's the symbol? Less than, okay? N is less than -2. You can write n is fewer than. That would work also. Going to the graph, make your number line. Identify -2, which just put in the middle. You don't have to add all those other numbers in there, okay? It's an open circle at -2 because it's just a less than symbol, and the values less than are to the left. Okay. The next one, n is greater than or equal to -7. That would work. You could say n is at least 7, okay? Or n is a minimum of 7. Either of those would be perfectly fine. This time on our number line, -7. You're probably all screaming at me, it's -7! Oh, luckily I caught that myself. This time on our graph, we're going to plot -7, and it's going to be a closed circle, right? Because this time -7 is included. That's what that or equal to part means. That -7 is also a solution here. And then the values that are greater than -7 are going to the right. Okay. So there are 3 examples of kind of what I want you to do here. I essentially want you to rewrite the inequality statement as a verbal phrase using the phrases that we wrote down in the table up above there, and then graph it also. And pay attention to, is it open circle or closed circle? And then which direction is your arrow or which direction is your shading going? Okay? All right. So that's the first part there. Then on page 2, I give you some verbal situations. Your mom gives you $20 for a trip to Target. show how much money you can spend at target. Okay? It says write each situation as an inequality statement, then graph it on a number line. So your mom says, here's 20 bucks, go to Target. How much money could you spend? Do you have to spend all 20? No, you probably will, because let's face it, Target, right? But you wouldn't have to. Do you have to spend any of it? No. You just keep it. You can spend $12, $17.50, $9.99, right? There's lots of different amounts you could spend. And this is where inequality comes into play here, because the amount of money you can spend is going to be less than or equal to $20, right? You could spend all 20, or you could spend less than that. And that's what this inequality statement shows us. M is less than or equal to 20. As a graph, here's the $20 that your mom gave you. You could spend all of it, so we have a closed circle, or you could spend less. Okay? You don't want your graph going that way, right? Because that means that you'd spend more than $20, but you don't have more than $20. Right? That's how people get into financial trouble, spending more than they have on credit cards or whatever else. Okay, so when you really think about it, it can help you decide which direction your graph is going to go, just based on logic here. You bring your dog inside when it's colder than negative 15 degrees Fahrenheit. Show the temperatures at which your dog is indoors. Okay, so when the temperature is colder than negative 15, what symbol is going to go in there? Temperature is colder than negative 15. Think about a thermometer, right? Kind of a vertical number line. Okay, if it's colder than negative 15, is it going to be above negative 15 or below negative 15? Maybe the word below would be another phrase for the less than symbol, right? You can add that in your table. If the temperature is colder than negative 15. And it's just a less than symbol because negative 15 degrees, if it's exactly negative 15 degrees, that's not colder than negative 15. It is negative 15. Okay? So we're not going to have the equal to, less than or equal to here. It's just going to be the less than symbol. On a graph, kind of a horizontal thermometer here. There's negative 15 degrees. If it is exactly negative 15 degrees, our dog stays outside, probably has a heated dog house or something, or a big fur coat, But if it's below that, if it's colder, then the dog comes inside. Okay? So that's what I'd like you to do here. On the second section, you are writing it as an inequality statement and then graphing it. Any more here? Does that kind of wrap up the, that wraps up the lesson. Yep, and it also wraps up the unit, and it even wraps up the binder. Look at that, your next page is practice work for CO1. Here's all your practice work for the first 3 units, which means that when you return from break in 2021, there will be a brand new, shiny, put together binder for you with units 4 through 6. But your homework, as has been the trend lately, will be a Google quiz. You must get 100% on it. Hopefully, nobody's started it yet. Okay, video's almost over. Then you can jump on in there. But it's basically going to be a few questions. Like on the front side, I will give you a statement such as this and ask you what the statement means. Or it'll be on the back side here. I will give you, or the second page here, I'll give you a situation and then give you an inequality statement, and you have to pick which one matches the situation here. All right. Maybe I'll throw a graph in there too, just for funsies. But next week, it's going to look like review days, Monday and Tuesday. Probably get your practice test on Monday. We'll go over it on Tuesday. Plan for a test Wednesday, Thursday. This equations test, some of them can take quite a long time to solve. So I do want to give you two days for the test. So plan for a test next Wednesday, Thursday. It is on objectives like 14 through 23 or something like that. You can check your table of contents and see. But test next week, quiz tonight. Yeah, that wraps up Unit 3. So that's how you math. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and have a tremendous day.